Hello and welcome to the Dead Air Dudes. I'm Izzy.
I am Raka. And we are here continuing our true crime series. And in coincidental fashion, the Dead Air Dudes traveled to Terrificon in Mohegan Sun and in the great state of Connecticut this weekend. As we traveled through, it hit us. I wonder if there's any serial killers in Connecticut. Such a quiet state compared to good old New York. And so in our travels and in our research, we've come across
prolific serial killer in Connecticut history, William Devin Howell, or better known as the Sick Ripper. Okay. He was
now we'll jump forward to the number that deems him to be the most prolific serial killer in Connecticut. The number is a total of 7 people. However,
7 confirmed, yes.
As we will delve into this, it will be frighteningly more. Odds are more of a body count than 7, sadly enough.
Now, getting deeper into the Sick Ripper, born in Hampton, Virginia, February 1st, 1970, what makes him pretty young, 51 years old. Okay. Now, he was working as a handyman, doing odd jobs, landscaper, whatever. After a pretty decent, I guess childhood, like normal, and actually was married for a while and had a couple kids, fell on hard times, and then he started living out of his van, which later on is going to be dubbed the Murder Mobile. Okay? Now, he would park in the parking lots and obviously live there and sleep there. Then, while having a hard time with depression and drinking and the like, he started getting these sinister, evil thoughts. Okay? As far as raping women and even more heinous acts.
This is probably a little too late, but just to warn anyone who's listening and tuning in right now, please be warned that we will hit onto heavy and graphic details, as well as subject matter that is not appropriate for children, young adults, and anyone sensitive to horror of criminal activity.
Exactly.
With that said, please continue.
Okay, now, you get it, Raka. Let me gather my thoughts again. So.
All right, so you got touched on his childhood. Now, from all accounts from him, his family, and everybody else, he was not abused. He was not sexually assaulted. He was not neglected. He did not grow up for want. He was not poor. He had things. He had what people would describe as a normal childhood. He did not overly wet his bed. He did not torture animals. He did not torture classmates. He was not picked on or bullied. So again, stretching far from the typical serial killer profile. He didn't have anything that you can reach back into the bag and say, oh, this is where he went left instead of right.
Yeah.
So with that said, in his early life, was he in the military?
I'm not sure if he was in the military. Well,
we did know that he had a relationship that took a wrong turn. Just didn't work out. And I think that's added some stress to him, and that may have caused some angst, some anger.
Can one really um call or not call BS on the fact that, oh yeah, because he mentioned many times that he was a normal guy that all of a sudden just did a bad thing, just kind of I guess, you know, snapped or whatever. You know what I mean? I mean, he chose marginalized, defenseless victims. Okay, people that were down on their luck, they're living unstable lives. They were sex workers. They were drug addicts. Not all, but they were along those lines. And for whatever reason, they decided to accept the ride from this guy, which in turn it would all lead to strangulation, then
Well, rape, strangulation,
rape, strangulation, and death. And then
actually, and then some mockery, because there were accounts from him that not only did he strangulize and rape repeatedly and then torture his victims, but then he would tease them. Oh, I'm going to take you for breakfast. Well, we're going to go to McDonald's. We're going to go to drive-through. They're half naked in the back, beat up. They're inches away from death, and then he would just, twist the knife verbally even more, and probably physically as well. But there's a sadistic dimension here, and why? He says because he could, because he was angry. He needed to get the anger out. So this was anger hyphen sexual assault ending up in murder.
yeah, no, it's crazy. I mean, now we get to the moment where of the 7 women, one was transgender, whom, when he found out that she was transgender, obviously that led to the eventual, murder. Because, of course, he's a sick puppy, but he can't be, whatever. But where it all fell apart was with, and we normally don't give the victims' names, but for the point of telling the story, we'll do so. Nilsa Arizmendi. Okay, this is where he got arrested, and it all, in a way, fell apart for the sick ripper. Okay, on July 31st, a woman told police that her sister, at that time 33-year-old Nilsa Arizmendi, had not been heard of for seven days. Now, Arizmendi's boyfriend was a drug dealer, and she also worked as a prostitute, and she was on drugs, and so obviously she was down on her luck. Perfect prey for Howell. Now, I guess the report goes they've probably been partying or whatever, and she ends up in the van, ends up leaving with him, which is the last time her boyfriend sees her, do believe what, 2:30 a.m. Okay, on July 25th. All right. Her body was found April 28th, 2015. This is where her body, along with 3 others, were found behind, what was it? Behind a
strip mall or some sort.
And it wasn't like they were just tossed over, like discarded.
In some garbage bags or whatnot. So he proceeds to have carried this out, at least that we know of, to 7 individuals in a span of 6 months. Now, you had mentioned Arizmendi was the focal point here, because there was this wide cast net looking for anyone who had connection with her disappearance.
Yeah.
And then there was eyewitness account that she got into this, I believe it's a blue van,
The murder mobile.
which is the murder mobile. Right. And then as police did their due diligence to see who owned the car, who registered the car, it happened to be Howell. And when they did their forensics on blood stains in the back, there was a match.
Yep.
In a subsequent search of the strip mall backyard or whatever kind of ditch it was down a hill or something, they had uncovered 3 more bodies.
Yeah. But the funny thing, I'm sorry to cut you off. The thing is that since at that moment when he was assaulted and everything, and they found the blood and everything, they never found her body until years and years later.
And this is where this story is not linear. So there are many branches to this story.
So he's charged with first-degree manslaughter, and and after that, he also he admits that he did what he did. You know what I mean? Then he tries to change it. He tries to recant that he did not admit to the crime, that he did not kill her. He argued that the blood stains were from a physical fight that she had with her boyfriend. The public defender pressured him into giving that plea, but he was given 15 years. The prosecution had enough evidence to get a conviction. Now, go back to what you were saying. Go ahead.
Okay, so while imprisoned for the murder of Arizmendi, true crime author and lawyer Ann K. Howard wanted to make transition from full-time attorney to true crime, or doing both a true crime novelist at the same time. This had come across to her mainly because she was living in the same neighborhood where these murders were taking place. And it dawned on her that I hope it's not just 3. So she did investigations of missing persons within the same region and came up with many missing persons reports during the same time span and some earlier. So in conjunction with her personal investigations, it appears that more bodies were uncovered.
Yeah.
And due to her prodding, I assume, we get to a total of 7. Going back now to the car, the murder mobile, they found and tested more blood stains, and you get your matches.
Yeah.
Now, we say only convicted for 7 murders because there are many missing reports of missing people during that time span. And mind you, he does not fit the prototypical serial killer, killing one gender, killing one race, killing within one age group. It varies.
It varied from 29 to 53.
Yeah. And so it's harder to pinpoint, okay, let's exclude this victim. Let's exclude that missing person.
What else did they find in the van? Which leads to
yes. So this is the real disturbing part.
Only 7.
They found videotapes, I believe, and photographs of many women, many of which have gone missing. So
6 videotapes of him having quote-unquote bizarre sex with women in a way that the videos make their faces not fully visible.
But when interviewed years later, because he did grant some interviews, he had mentioned that he did not start out to be a killer.
Nope.
He had anger. His mom died when he was 15 of cancer. I think he had 2 children with his childhood sweetheart, and that didn't go well, and he was mad at her. So he had anger that turned into sex. And then during rough sex play, it progressed to violence that ended up in murder. And according to him, in his words, he didn't look initially, he didn't aim to kill them. It just happened, and he kind of liked it. He also didn't give a shit too much. He didn't care. They died, they died. But because he is linked with violence and sex together, when he had these relations in his murder mobile, it ended up that way. It now became part of his routine. He himself dubbed his vehicle the murder mobile.
The murder mobile, he called himself a sick ripper. He actually slept with a dead body for what? 3, I don't even know how many.
Many days.
You know?
So he's so not right.
Me.
So at this point now we have a murder mobile. We have a guy who circles and plots and targets these fringe women who may not be missed. He's got a mindset, a plot, a predetermined, premeditated aim. We have this true crime aspiring writer from author turned writer who's assisting inadvertently with the uncovering of more victims. We have the revelation of 6 videotapes with different acts with different women who cannot be accounted for. God knows how many women the total count is. And then we get to the courtroom.
How can you freaking, you must add, we're talking about his quote-unquote garden. I mean, you're talking about a guy who is not clearly all there, and he, like you said, extensive interviews with the author and the ex-lawyer. He would, after he raped all of his victims in the van, except for one, the transgender, he carried the body into the woods, he dug the shallow graves, and he walked away with a shovel in hand. Then he stashed the tool next to the guardrail at the edge of the parking lot so he won't be seen walking out of the woods with a shovel. Now, if all this is not premeditated, all this is not someone who knows what the F he's doing, don't know what is.
So, some chilling words by William Devin Howell himself. Because after being convicted, he still kept letter correspondence with Anne and also granted interviews, but then would turn belligerent during interviews when asked about names or if there were more and something else. Actually, the interviewer regrets not asking if there were more victims. But he simply said he just did not care. He targeted women. He did what he did. But what adds more twist to this case is during the court sentencing. Right. So obviously, as you know, he was found guilty of all counts. He is now serving 360-something years, and Connecticut does have the death penalty.
Consecutive life sentences, yeah.
Which I don't know why. I don't know if you come across why he didn't get the death penalty in Connecticut, or if he did. But I mean, he's got these life sentences. But how could you not? But he turns around during his sentencing and addresses the families of the victims and tells them in what can only be either a well-rehearsed act or theatrics or focus on me, drama. but he gives what appears to be a heartfelt apology,
Right.
which is very, very strange for a cold-blooded killer who claims, I don't care. And he, at the time, was not looking for any leniency, was not looking for anything in that matter. He just turns around to the family members, addresses them, and they're all in shock, not expecting this. Of course, they didn't get two shits about it, but he turns around and he addresses them and asks them, not forgiveness, but apologizes that he had caused them harm and he did these to these people. It's just, it's so bizarre.
Yeah. In a later interview, he goes, and I quote, I mean, I committed monstrous and heinous crimes, but my true character isn't a monstrous and heinous person.
I don't know. I don't know what you're saying.
Did they check this guy out for mental,
I believe he seemed mentally fit to stand trial, which usually it goes hand in hand that you can't cop an insanity plea, and you were within your facilities when you did all these acts, which means you're 100% liable for them, and you're premeditated them. You have a van. It's not like, oh, I have a sickness or I couldn't control it or a voice told me to do this.
He committed murders, he said, to hide the rapes. Really?
He even told the court that he deserved the death penalty. Oh, this is why. Sorry, I've come across this now. He told the court that he deserved the death penalty, which was abolished by the state of Connecticut Supreme Court in 2015, conveniently. So, it's kind of like spill milk's crap. Like, oh, you're crying this, you're crying that, you deserve to be killed, but well they can't do it.
But that's nuts because if it would have been a year before, that's what it got fried. Sorry. Now.
Howell is also on record as telling a cellmate that there was a monster inside of him, described himself as a sick ripper, which, that's why he calls himself the sick ripper, and that he kept one of the women's body in his van for 2 weeks, as you had mentioned before, because it was too cold outside to bury her. And he slept next to her and called the victim his baby.
Yeah. He
later cut off the tips of her fingers, dismantled her bottom jaw, and disposed of the body parts in Virginia. So that alone, if you didn't need from the other stuff, would make you speculate that there are more victims here. And they're not all in Connecticut.
Look, all right, right now, gun to your head, hand to your heart. There's more than 7. There has to be.
Countless more, unfortunately. Countless more. And he's not a genius, but he's smart enough to know how to get in, how to get out, who to select as victims. He says himself in his correspondence with Anne that had he not been caught, he would have kept doing this forever.
Yeah. So then,
which you can assume he's been doing it.
Of course, he's been doing it. You don't gain the taste of blood and gain the taste of whatever these monstrous acts, murder and everything, and just stop. When they stop. You don't. You don't do that. You keep doing it until you get caught. Even though I think this guy didn't want to get caught. I don't know. One of the more.
Well, friends,
I've heard. I mean, we've done some sickos, but
some sickos now. I mean, this is more in the modern day. The sentencing was only in 2017. This is right in our backyard. We're from New York, in Connecticut. This is in the tri-state area. This is during the age of cameras everywhere, cell phones, surveillances, and yet individual was able to, at the very least, rape, torture, kill 7 victims, and there's surely more, unfortunately, out there. There's been no success to maybe cop a plea or deal with him to get more information out of him to possibly other victims. So unfortunately, that's where we stand with that.
Yeah. So once again, ladies and gentlemen, I know we have another really.
With that said, I guess we
crazy tale.
Wrap this up as the most prolific serial killer in Connecticut, and lay to rest with some gratitude that due to police due diligence, an investigative reporter, investigative writer, lawyer, and with some neighborly witnesses, he was caught, he's behind bars, and he cannot harm anybody again.
Yeah. So that was the tale of the sick ripper, William Devin Howell. That's pretty much it.
In recent times as well. All right. Listen, stay safe, stay vigilant, and remember to save the whales. Thank you for liking, subscribing, and tuning into our channel and our podcast. Please continue to do so, and you keep us going. And thank you very much, especially you in Germany, you in France, you in the Bronx, the Boogie Down, and everybody else in between, in the stars and those in Middle Earth. Yes, right, Middle Earth. Thank you so much, and thank you, Connecticut, for providing us with a terrific con.
Yeah. Take care, everybody. Stay safe, and as always, save the whales.